After being furloughed and a pandemic forced everyone into lockdown, I decided to give Instacart a try. From the start, I loved all the freedom that came along with this gig. I could make my own schedule, explore new neighborhoods, make decent money, and it was a great mental escape that allowed me to leave the house during those tough times. But like everything in life, it has its pros and cons. That brings me to the one incident that still creeps me out till this day. And because of it, I haven't done Instacart in over a year and a half. The story I'm about to tell you took place Sunday, April 19th of 2020. That day will forever be engraved in my brain. I remember it being my first non-stop day of good batches. Every order was pretty easy, and by 7 p.m., I had made over $250. At the time, it was the most I had made in a single day. Usually, I would stop working by 5 p.m., but I was so high from the excitement of making so much money that I wanted to stay out a bit longer and see if I could make more. I signed off at around 7:45 p.m. to have dinner. My last delivery had taken me to a part of town that I wasn't familiar with, so I decided to look up a restaurant near me, order dinner, and pick it up curbside. After I finished eating, I just sat in my car for a while, people watching. Seeing people adjust to wearing masks, forming lines, and trying to keep a safe distance gave me an ominous feeling that carried on for the rest of my night. I sat there for 30 minutes in some sort of a trance before deciding to go back online. There was a batch available that had a small number of items. I accepted the order and arrived to the store in about 15 minutes. The list consisted of the following items: 2 30-inch black heavy-duty cords, a set of 10 4-inch black mini ritual candles, a 12-piece wood carving tool kit, and a slicing knife, flexi tape, and a voice recorder. Once everything was packed in the car, I went on the app and clicked deliver. It was a 35-minute drive to get to the customer's location. After about 20 minutes, the GPS had led me to a deserted area, and I was now on a long, empty, dirt, dark road. The only light around me was coming from my headlights. There were a few houses scattered here and there, but it was kind of late at this time, so many of the houses' lights were off. I remember driving for a while before reaching a T-junction. That's when my GPS directed me to turn left down a completely dark, deserted road with no houses in sight. I was engulfed in complete darkness. After about 15 minutes on this road, my GPS said I had arrived. It was pitch black. My car lights were giving me some visibility, but I didn't see anything. I squinted my eyes to get a better look at my surroundings. Off in the distance, I saw to my far right was a single standing house. No lights were on, and the place looked creepy, rotten, and abandoned. The windows were boarded up with wood, and the steps were caved in. This couldn't be the right location. The customer left special instructions for me not to leave the groceries on the porch and to contact them when I'd arrive. I texted the customer to let them know that I was in front of the house, but I didn't believe that I was in the right location. I kept looking around, trying to see if there were any other houses nearby, but it was pitch black, and all I could see was woods. The house was definitely abandoned because not one single light had come on. 3 minutes had passed and no reply, so I decided to call. The phone rang and someone immediately picked up. There was heavy breathing for a few seconds, then I broke the silence by saying, "Hello?" A groggy voice answered with,
"Are you here?"
"Yes, I have your groceries."
"Stay right there."
He then hung up. My first thought was to just take the stuff out of my car and leave. But I know how important ratings are, and I didn't want to have any bad reviews. I stepped out of the car and started preparing the groceries. Then I heard running in the far distance coming from the woods. I stopped what I was doing and stared off into the direction of the noise. It was getting louder and louder. Then out of the darkness appeared a skinny, pale guy, like there was no blood left running in his veins, and he was covered in tattoos with a beard and long, unkempt hair, charging straight towards me at full speed. I mean, he was running like he was training for the Olympics. My knees began to buckle as he got closer, and I felt a cold rush go over my body. I was frozen in place with shock. He came to a sudden stop when he reached my car. Then in the same eerie voice said,
Drive me to my house.
"Isn't this your house?"
No, this address is just easier to find.
He said this while staring weirdly and uncomfortably at me without blinking at all. Confusion struck and my heart started racing again. There was something about his delivery that seemed very disconnected, and we were in a sketchy location in the middle of nowhere. I began explaining to him that it was against company's policy to have customers in the car, let alone drive them anywhere. What happened next, I still have nightmares about to this day. His face turned even paler than it was before, as he continued to just stand there, staring at me with this blank, expressionless look. Now he was sweating profusely, then suddenly started smiling with the most demonic smile I've ever seen. I want to make it clear that I'm not a small guy. I'm 5'11", solid built, and muscular. I don't get intimidated easily, but this was some creepy shit. I knew I could overpower him if needed be. This dude's voice then began to change, and he started speaking in a childlike voice, saying,
You're going to die. Help me. I'm begging you. Can you help me?
He started shaking his head violently from side to side, like he was possessed. He then dropped to the ground with his head tilted down while pulling his hair with both hands and rocking back and forth. Then I heard rustling from the woods coming from two different areas. What the fuck? I slammed the trunk and ran to the front of the car, jumping into the driver's seat. As I began to close the door, he stuck his arm in and I slammed it. He started grunting like a deranged maniac and yanked the car door open so hard I thought the door was going to come off. I hopped out, yelling at him, telling him to let go. But he just held on for dear life, swinging the door back and forth so hard I legit thought the door was about to break. He whipped his head back, looking up at the sky, and started making these weird noises and chanting something I couldn't make out. Now the rustling in the trees became more violent. It was pitch black, but my headlights gave me some visibility, and I could have sworn I seen a figure when I looked in the direction. Like I said earlier, I'm a pretty strong, muscular guy, and very rarely do I feel intimidated by anyone. But if I was outnumbered, I wouldn't try to play tough, and I would just get the fuck out of there. And I was quickly becoming aware that this guy wasn't alone. I grabbed him by his scrawny, cold, and pasty arms and yanked him off the door, throwing him onto the ground. I hopped back into the car and sped off so fast that there was a thick cloud of dust. When I looked in my rearview mirror, I saw him along with two other guys running after my car, yelling at the top of their lungs. It was a horrifying scene and an even more horrifying experience. I floored it, and I was relieved when they faded away into the dusty darkness. I don't know what they were planning on doing to me, and I played that night over and over and over in my head. If I had to guess, I think they were part of some cult, and they wanted to sacrifice me. I reported this incident to customer care and called the cops. I later found out that the house had been abandoned for over 9 years, and there had been reports of strange incidences happening in that house. I gave thanks every single day that I made it out alive, and now I only deliver between the hours of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. My advice for anyone interested in working for a delivery service is to stay safe. There are weirdos out there who take advantage of these things to catch prey, and I was prey. Please stay safe out there, and have a good night.